Hello, AutoHotKey wannabes. That's not a good intro, but I'm going to keep it. All right, look, if you want to use AutoHotKey for speeding up your video editing in Premiere, this is the tutorial for you. I will be showing you absolutely everything, step by step. If you want a demonstration for how effective macros can be while editing a video, you can just go watch this one, the advanced 4-hour-long Premiere Pro tutorial. It has all the chapter markers and so on. So people watch this and they just don't know how to get started with AutoHotKey. They go to my GitHub that has all the code, and it's incredibly intimidating because, first of all, it's very loosely organized, and I don't want to move stuff around because now it's all linked to other stuff. And there's information, but like it doesn't make sense if you're new to AutoHotKey. So I do tell you, like, start with the beginner tutorial, and I'm going to go through that with you. And I'm going to show you exactly how to set it up and how to grab just a few of the scripts that you want to use from inside of all of this mess. Basically, everything starts from this script here, but we're not going to copy paste everything in here because this is just way too much stuff, and you're just going to get endless messages about, like, oh, you don't have this function, you don't have that function, you don't have the AAC library installed. I'll explain everything. I'm going to show step by step, and I'm on a brand new user in Windows, so that I have to install everything and do exactly the right steps, the same steps that you'll be doing. So let's get into it. By the way, and this is super important, my code is always changing and being updated and stuff. So depending on when you're watching this, the current code on GitHub might be very different from the code that you're seeing in this video right now. So in order to eliminate any confusion due to that, what I'm going to do is link you to an older version of my GitHub repository. So that's going to be a version that says, for AutoHotKey tutorial V2 or V3 or V4, whatever the highest number is, that's the correct number. Trust me, I'll just link you straight to it, and it's going to have all the code that you're seeing, and I'll probably update the comments and clean it up a little bit because when I made this tutorial, it is pretty sloppy looking. So you're going to have nicer code to look at and work with, plus some additional comments that'll help guide you. And just don't use the very latest copy on my GitHub. If you do, I can't guarantee that everything will be the same. According to my notes here, first thing to do is download AutoHotKey. AutoHotKey.com. Yeah, download. Download current version. Wait, V 1.0. Uh-oh. What did I build all my scripts in? See, I've already hit a snag. Well, I'm just going to do the current version, and if I run into a snag, then I guess we'll figure it out together. Open file. Okay, install AutoHotKey in program files. You can do, let's just see what happens if I do custom. Uh-oh. Yeah, 64-bit is fine, that's fine. Yeah, that's this. You do want to do that. Next. Install compiler. You don't need the script compiler. I would enable separate taskbar buttons, because all your scripts, if you have more than one script running, they'll all show up down here, and it's nice to have them on different buttons. So here we go. Okay, run AutoHotKey. So what might be confusing for you is that when you run AutoHotKey, you get this. Well, what is this? This is just the documentation. This is not really AutoHotKey. And you can also get to this documentation by going to the website, right, from this URL. Oh my goodness, this is like exactly the same thing. Index? Index. Oh, weird. Basically, if I ever need to look up like what a function is, I'll just type in AutoHotKey, like image search. Oh my god. Image search. I hate autocomplete. And then it'll go to that spot, like in the documentation, and you can read all about like what it's expecting and so on. But don't worry about this right now. Don't worry about this. We're just going to do the beginner tutorial, right? So downloading and installing AutoHotKey, we already did that. Right click on see, right click on your desktop. This is what I was going to do. That's what I was going to do. All right. Right click. New. AutoHotKey script. Ooh, that was not there before. My first AutoHotKey, yay. So if I double click on it right now, nothing happens because there's just nothing inside of that file. There's no code in there. What you're supposed to do is right click and say open with, not AutoHotKey because that's just running the code. You have to open it, oh my gosh, with Notepad. And let's just say always use this. Note from Future Terran here. What I just showed you is wrong. You should always be running the scripts with AutoHotKey, but you should be editing the scripts using Notepad or some other text editor. See how edit script is an option when you right click on it? That's what you're supposed to use to edit these scripts. I will fix that soon, so don't worry about it too much. And let's just say always use this for the moment. Okay? Now you can actually see the code. So here we go. We're in Notepad. Now Notepad is not especially great. It's better to use something like Notepad++, which will allow you to do all sorts of extra stuff like searching and replace. Well, trust me, I will show you. So there's nothing in your script right now. There's nothing here. Okie dokie. Give the script a name. Click Edit Script. So if you do it by right-clicking and saying New AutoHotKey Script, then you get this stuff that is already inside of the little script here. What does this all do? I'm not entirely sure. This is good. I always have it. This is good. I don't know. So, you know, these, just don't worry about these. Don't worry about them. Just leave them where they are. It's fine. And then it says, do this. I'm not going to do the whole tutorial with you, but let's just do at least this, and I'll show you what's supposed to happen. Send my first script. Hello. And enter. Return. Enter. And, well, Control S to save that. And now if I double click on it, well, guess what? It just opens it in Notepad. So that's not what we want. You right click, say open with, choose another app, AutoHotKey. Always do that, say OK. And now if I double click on it, apparently I'm already running it. Let's just say yes. Oh, I was running the one that doesn't have anything. Okay, now it's running. But where's the script? Ooh. It is down here. There it is. So this is this little, what is this even called? The hidden icons? Why is it hidden? I don't know. It's supposed to be in your icons. I would just open that up and drag it down here. And now it will be there next time you run it. And if you want to do anything with this, you right click on it, you can pause the script, and now nothing will happen. If I do press Control J, nothing happens. But I can unpause the script, I can exit, and now I'm not running it anymore. So anyway, double click, see it's running. And now what this means is Control J, and it'll do whatever it says. So Control J. Huh? Hey, I did Control J. Reload. Control J. Oh, I see. Okay, it's not a message box. For some reason I was expecting a message box. Yeah, if you just click on the desktop and you press Control J, like it's just sending that. It's just sending those keystrokes. But if I click inside of a Notepad window and then I press Control J, then it'll send all of those characters. So let's just undo that. Undid too many things. So like it doesn't matter which Notepad window you do that in. Like I can click anywhere and say Control J, and it'll always send those characters, right? Like I can go here to Microsoft Bing search, and I can Bing it. Control J. Look, my first script. Hello. What's going to happen? Nothing of importance. So as you can see, you can use that to auto-populate, you know, whatever. You could put your email address in there, and then you don't have to fill out your email every single time. You could put a password in here. Warning, this is a joke. Do not store passwords in plain text. Thank you. You could say password 123. That's the best password ever. And watch this. I'm going to save, Control S, and if I go into another thingy and I press Control J, it's still sending the old thing. Well, what's up with that? Well, that's because I didn't refresh the script. So you can either double click on it, and then you just say yes. Click in here. And Control J, ta-da, it's doing the new thing. Control J, right? So you either have to double click and then bypass this message, or you can add a line in here so you don't have this stupid message, or you right click on here and say reload the script. And then it'll reload the script and you can send stuff. So AutoHotKey is now working, all right? You got it working, you know that it works. And there's just so much more that you can do. Now there's different ways that you can write that out, like the simpler way is to just do it like that, so it's all on one line, and this will do the exact same thing. So let's just Control S to save. And in fact, because I'm finding this annoying, and you're going to want to do this too, find single instance in the help file. Let's just say yes. So search for single instance. Single instance. Force ignore prompt off. That's different. All right. Look, this is kind of this is confusing even to me. Single instance, and then this is like what you're supposed to replace with whatever you want. So instead of that, you use that one, or that one, or that one, or that one. So anyway, what I want to do is at the top, not after the macro, but at the top here, I'm going to do AutoHotKey single instance force. I'm going to say save, double click on it to get it running, and look, it didn't bother me that time, right? So now if I change this to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, save, double click, oops, double click, now I can go somewhere else, and I press Control J, and now it is the new script, right? So now it's not going to bother you every time you refresh the script, and you're going to have to be refreshing it a lot. you just are. Your first script is done. Get some reward snacks. All right. So there's a lot that you can do. This is a I actually never use hot strings, but you can do that if you want. Typing in FTW will then type out something else instead. Message boxes. These are your bread and butter for debugging your scripts, or at least they are for me. I don't know what normal programmers do, but I use message boxes and tooltips to debug my scripts. So this is very important, and please pay attention. We're going to add another line of code, which is going to be Alt P, because why not? And then colon, message box, spelled out like that, comma, hello world, you pressed Alt P. Control S to save, and double click on it to get it running. And now I'm going to press Alt P. Ta-da! There's a message box. Now, Alt is a terrible shortcut to use with your your macros because it does menu acceleration. So just pressing it once will get you into the frickin' menus. It is so annoying. I hate it. I have a script that fixes that, but don't worry about that right now. You may wonder why Alt is represented by an exclamation mark, and that's just because like it doesn't work to like do Alt P. No, it has to be represented by a character. It's just, you just have to remember it. And then Shift is represented by a plus. So Shift K is going to be, let's just make a tooltip, comma, you pressed Shift K. Good for you. If I put any commas in that, it's not going to work because if you look up how tooltip works, there are more, these are called parameters that you can give to the tooltip, and it will assume that you're going into the next parameter after you do another comma, right? So that's now saying what the x coordinate is, so I'd have to tell it something. Another weird thing about the language and what makes it sloppy is you can actually omit the first comma and it'll still work, but just don't do it that way. Just do good practice and you'll be happier. So Shift K, and every time I press it, it makes a new tooltip. Right? Tooltips are nice because they don't really slow anything down at all, and you can just leave them on the screen, and this is never going to go away no matter what. It'll just stay there forever until I close the script or refresh the script. Right? So those are your two useful things for debugging. Let's go back here. Windows key. Oh yeah, the Windows key is the AutoHotKey. Oh, you might be confused that, okay, like as you can see that this, we also had it used here and here. Programming languages, it knows that if there's these two colons, that means that you're doing a hotkey or whatever, like you're doing a macro or whatever. So just follow what the documentation says. Yeah, see, and then you can do the and. This is a little bit more advanced. But the point is that you can turn any key into any other key, right? I can just turn G into P, and that'll work. And like, let's just do it. Double click, and let's go. Uh-oh, what happened? My G turned into a P because that's what I told it to do. All right, let's get rid of that because that's going to be a disaster. So, okay, but none of this code is especially useful, so I'm just going to delete it. Except instead of deleting it, sometimes you want to still have this available so you can copy paste stuff out of it. Like if you wrote something useful, but you just want to, I don't know, you just want to keep it around, but you don't want it to actually run. What you do is you comment it out. And to do a comment in AutoHotKey, you use a semicolon. And everything to the right of a semicolon, including more semicolons, does not get, what's the word, compiled. It doesn't get used in your code. So like, I can do a semicolon, and I can say, let's turn Q into W, and say save, and double click on it to get it running. And I'm pressing Q right now. Q, 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 Q. It's not turning into W because the script is not using everything that is to the right of one of these little semicolons. So you can just add that in front of something to comment it out, or later you can comment it back in if you decide you want to use that code again, right? So that's useful. So Control Save, double click on it, and now I can still do Alt P. See, it works again. Okay. There's some useful things. Yeah, you really need to go through this whole tutorial and read it and understand everything in here. And they do a really great job of bringing you through everything. But this is a really important thing, the hashtag ifwinactive. This allows you to dictate which hotkeys are used in which programs. When you go into my code, you're going to notice all sorts of hashtag, let's see, ifwinactive, AutoHotKey class, Mozilla window class. What this means is Alt F1 will only do what's over here if I am in Firefox, right? Because the Firefox AutoHotKey class is Mozilla window class. And I found that out using Windows Spy, but I'll explain that later. The point is, this hotkey will not do anything in any other program. Okay, so in the tutorial, if I just take this, I copy this text, and, well, you know what, I am going to just delete all of that stuff. We don't need it. I'm going to keep the send because it's kind of funny. Okay, let's add this, okay? And I don't like hot strings. I'm just going to delete this. So and I also like to separate things a little bit more. So Windows key space will send the message box that if you're in Notepad. Let's try it. Control Save, double click on it, get it running. I'm going to click on the desktop. I'm going to hit Windows key space. Nothing happened. I'm going to go here and I'm going to click Windows key space. Ta-da! See, it works, right? And that's like right there. One of the most powerful features of AutoHotKey is that different key combinations will do different things in different programs. And I can have something that only works if you have Adobe Premiere open. And so that's what we're going to do with our hotkeys, is they're only going to work in Premiere, and then your keyboard will work totally normally when you're not in Premiere, unless you add more things that work in other programs. And by the way, it is bad practice to use the Windows key for your for your macros. It's not a good idea. I just stay away from it. Windows key, it's hard to remap it. It does all sorts of stuff. Like Windows key D goes to the desktop, and you can block that, and you can say Windows key D and just say message box, this no longer goes to the desktop. Save and double click on it to get it running. And if I'm in Notepad and I do Windows key D, this no longer goes to the desktop. You can block anything with AutoHotKey, although I don't think you can block Control-Shift-Escape. You know what? I'm going to try it right now. I don't know what's going to happen. This is exciting. Control-Shift, and then I think I have to do escape like that, and then say message box, you in trouble now. Save, double click to get it running. Invalid hotkey. I guess I don't know how to do escape. Do I not need those? Save. Okay, Control Shift Escape. Let's try it when I have Notepad active. Oh my god! You can block that with AutoHotKey? That's amazing. Don't do that. That is a bad idea. You should do not mess with that one. Right, but like there's some programs that don't allow you to set certain key combos as shortcuts. And the thing is, if you really want that, then you can just do it in AutoHotKey. And in AutoHotKey, change it to some other combo that program does allow, and then you can use the one that you want. Let me get my keyboard visible right now for you. Cool. Oh yeah, see, they tell you all sorts of stuff. Yeah, see, I even got it wrong. I was like, do I use the curly brackets or not? Not use it. Do not use it on the left side of those two colons. Okay. Yeah, read through all of this. Make sure you understand it. Okay. Now this is the point where I'm going to assume that you have read through the entire AutoHotKey beginner tutorial by Tidbit. Except for section number 7 about objects. I have no idea how to work with objects. I don't understand them. I don't use them. Maybe I should learn. But since I don't know what these are, you certainly don't need to know because you won't find any of them in my code. So just ignore section number 7. Even if you don't understand absolutely everything here, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. I will still be helping you with every single bit of my code, at the very least for the preset function that I'm going to be showing you how to do. After that point, you will be on your own, because I can't hold your hand forever, and the birdie has got to leave the nest at some point. So just read through the whole tutorial, and don't worry if you don't understand everything, and then come back and continue watching this video. So let's go to the TerranVH GitHub and go to the second keyboard repository, which I know is confusingly named. I can't change it now. This has all my scripts. It's not just for the secondary keyboard. We're not even building a secondary keyboard today. And don't worry about all these macro keys over here. We're not even going to use them. I'm going to assume that you don't have any macro keys, so I'm just going to put stuff on the function keys. All right. So easy peasy. Anybody can use AutoHotKey. You just need the function keys. You can assign any key to any other key, but you're not going to, right? You're not going to assign Q to W. You need Q to type a Q, right? But you don't need the function keys most of the time. So those are where your scripts can usually go. Or sometimes they can go on some of these weird ones, or maybe you don't use the numpad. But function keys usually fill up first. Future Terran here. Okay, remember that for you, when you're following along, do not use this URL. This is wrong. You need to be on the older one that I made at the same time as the video. You should not be looking at the master right here. You should be on the old weird string of numbers one, and it'll probably say for AutoHotKey tutorial V3 or V4 or something. There will be a link to it. All right. And we're going to grab a premiere function. And here's the thing. I know it's a little confusing, but I can't change it now. Most of the scripts that I have stem from all multiple keyboard assignments.AutoHotKey. All right. So these 4 underneath here, 1, 2, 3, 4, the Photoshop, Windows Premiere, and After Effects functions, all of these AutoHotKey files are loaded inside of this one when it runs. So I only have to load this one, and then all these ones come along for the ride. Right? This is where the functions are stored, but the all multiple keyboard assignments.AutoHotKey script actually has the key assignments in it. And you do not have to do it that way. Right? You also don't need this or this or this, or, well, you should read me, or most of the stuff in here. You don't need it. We're just going to be doing it all in one single AutoHotKey file, and then later you can add more, which you might want to do for certain reasons. So anyway, let's just go into here. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here and blah, 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 blah. And as you can see, like I just told you, we are loading all of those scripts. Actually, it looks like I'm not loading the Photoshop functions. I guess I'm, I don't know why not. Whatever, you know, I can if I want to. You don't need the GUI at all. Just for your information, the hashtag include simply behaves as though you had pasted the entire other AutoHotKey script in that exact spot. That's pretty much all you need to know about it. So, like I said, absolutely do not just copy and paste this entire thing. Do not do this. What I'm doing right here, do not do this. Copy, paste. Do not do that. It's going to be a disaster. You know what? In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to save. I'm going to double click on it, and look. it doesn't even know what to do, right? You don't have GUI.AutoHotKey, so you can't do it. It won't run. Just undo, right? We're just going to be copying little fragments out of here. Let's go back to the top. And what you can do is, like, I know it's kind of hard to find stuff, but because I know what I'm looking for, I'm just going to type in, I'm just going to do Control F for search. I'm going to say F1 and colon, and this will pop up every single time where I've assigned a AutoHotKey function or hotkey or macro or whatever to the F1 key. So in this case, it does Control Shift page up, That actually, I don't remember what that's for. Whatever, let's go to the next one. Let's see, if I'm in keyboard number 4, this just runs a tooltip. That's something that I don't use, so let's try the next one. In Firefox, Alt F1 will move a tab to the left. We don't need that right now. We also don't need that. This one actually, I use these all the time. These are super useful. It's great. It did just, instead of having to do Control Tab and Control Shift Tab, I just do F1 and F2, and that just does it for me. Like this, I would recommend that you use that. Okay, let's go to the next one. After Effects, we don't need that one. Chrome, we don't need that one right now. Notepad, we don't need that one right now. And let's keep going. Aha, here we go. Here is the Premiere Pro function keys. So what I want you to do is copy this and paste. Ta-da! And this will work now. Well, actually, it won't. let me show you. First of all, let's get rid of all this crap here. We don't need it. We do not want that. Let's just declutter, please. Save. And let's move this up here so it's easy to click on. Double click. And let's go into Premiere and see what happens when we press F1. Oh dear. So it tried to save the project because guess what? If I go to my Premiere Keyboard Shortcuts panel, you did not put in the shortcuts that you were supposed to into this panel, right? So let's go back and look at the scripts. Control-Alt-S is assigned to select clip at playhead. But let's see what it is assigned to in this copy of Premiere. Control-Alt-S is assigned to save a copy. Well, that would explain why it opened up the Save As dialog box. So click and just remove that. Click the X. But we need to assign it to that. Oh man, I hate having to use the mouse to click on stuff. See, I put these little comments here for you to explain what you're supposed to do. Select clip at playhead. So let's look for that. Select clip at playhead. Ta-da! Currently it's assigned to D by default. And I'm going to add the assignment to Control-Alt-S. Was that what it was? I've already forgotten. Control-Alt-S. Yes, it is. And then Control-Alt-Shift-D is ripple delete. Let's find out what's assigned to Control-Alt-Shift-D. Nothing. All right. So type in the search box, ripple delete. It's assigned to Shift Delete. That's a perfectly acceptable thing. You can choose to remove that, or you can just add Control-Alt-Shift-D. And there we go. Now, you might have noticed that there are two different commands, both of which are called ripple delete. And basically, the top one is the application-wide shortcut, and the bottom one is the panel-specific shortcut. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work, but in practice it seems like both of them only work when the timeline is in focus. I don't understand it, but just use the top one. Just do the same thing that I've done, and you're gonna be fine. Now, panels in Premiere are very important. Certain shortcuts will only work when certain panels are in focus, which means it has the sort of cyan border around it. I will explain more about that later when it becomes relevant, so don't you worry your pretty little head. Now, why is it Control-Alt-Shift-D? Well, because it's a very difficult to press keyboard shortcut on accident. And it's a very easy shortcut for a script to hit on purpose. All right? And you will find that a lot of my macros use Control-Alt, Control-Shift, or Control-Shift-Alt, and then some letter or number, because it's just very unambiguously going to be ripple delete, right? You do not want to have this assigned to like Shift Delete. Like that's a terrible, terrible shortcut for a command like this, because if you are in the wrong spot, if you're like in a text box somewhere or you're in a menu somewhere and you press delete, like God knows what's going to happen, right? So if you press Control-Alt-Shift-D, nothing happens because that doesn't do anything except for the exact thing that you told it right here, which is ripple delete something when you are on the timeline only, right? Whereas the delete key, even though it's not assigned to anything really, except for clear, like this will still do other things, right? Whereas the delete key, or even the Shift Delete key, even though it's not assigned to anything really, except for clear, like this will still do other things. Right, so you just want to be very unambiguous with your key assignments. You'll see more of that as we go with this. Like, don't use Alt by itself because it's a Windows menu accelerator and it's just a nightmare to deal with. until you get better and understand how it works. And definitely don't use shift with most of your macros, because that'll just send a capital letter or a symbol, right? If you want to send commands explicitly, you want to send a command that's not going to be misinterpreted, use the control modifier and something, or control shift or control alt or control shift alt, right? So we've got ripple delete here. So very, very clearly it will not do anything else. So let's see, is there anything else? No, it's literally just those two things, right? So select clip of playhead, like you wouldn't want that to be, what was it, D? D is select clip of playhead. What a stupid shortcut to be sent with a macro. It's a perfectly acceptable shortcut to be hit with your hand. And in fact, the fewer keys you have to press, the better, right? But it's not good at all to send with a macro, because you might just type in a D somewhere, right? It's not going to work. So control shift whatever D, like nothing's going to happen. Control shift alt S, nothing bad will happen, right? So now that we've assigned both of those shortcuts in Premiere, now let's try pressing F1 again. Hey, 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 hey! Congratulations! See that? We just did the ripple delete clip at playhead. It is the very first macro I ever made. I didn't even do it in AutoHotKey. You can probably do this in whatever keyboard software you have. You just send one shortcut and then the other, right? It's very simple, and yet it's a command that Premiere does not have natively, right? They have the select clip of playhead, and then they have the delete, but they don't have the delete clip of playhead. And I still use F1. I still use that every single day, all the time. It's my simplest and one of my more common macros. So congratulations, you now have the ripple delete clip of playhead. And in this case, I told you exactly which keys to set up, but I don't always do that. However, I have done my very best to put them at the very beginning of the script right up here. Right here, these are all of the important keys that you need to assign in order for my scripts to work, right? And you don't have to use these assignments if you don't want to, that you might have some reason that you might want to use something else. That's fine. But then you have to change it in the script itself as well, right? These are just my assignments. And also, if you want to go full Terran, and you never go full Terran, you can actually just download the key assignments that I've used and just load them directly. Like, they're all available for you right here. Settings and shortcuts. I keep updating, like I've got all the old ones in here from a bygone era. But I believe the latest one is 202012.kys, right? So you can just literally just download this. I think if you click raw? Yeah, just click raw, and then it just shows it to you because it's not complicated. Control S to save this, and like it's got that stupid .txt tacked onto the end there, which is so stupid. But save that somewhere, and then you can load that in Premiere, right? And then you can just have my keyboard shortcuts. Actually, let's just do that right now. Let's just save it into here. I don't know. Put it somewhere that's not stupid. Show in folder. All right, let's grab that location. Let's go back into Premiere, and if you want to load my shortcuts, I'm showing you how to do it right now. First of all, save your existing ones. We're going to call this Bob's Keys. Hello, Bob. Bob's Keys V1. All right, now you saved your keys. All right, and now, how do I load? Oh, there's no load. So if you want to get my keys in here, I can't believe this. You actually have to go search for the folder, and I think I have it listed somewhere. Jeez, I'm pretty sure I wrote it down. Aha! I wrote it down in here. Ha 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 ha. Premiere Shortcuts location. There it is. Okay. Let us go and instead of here, let's just cut that out of there. Let's go to C drive. Users. Go to your username, which is leguest in my case. And then Documents, Adobe, Premiere Pro, 13. That one says 14, but I guess I've got Premiere 13 installed. Go there, and then Win, and then look at that. We have Bob's Keys V1. And you could have actually searched for that, and then eventually it would have been found. But paste your KYS in there, and then I would just save this string so you can find it again. Or what you can do is actually, check this out, Alt, click, drag, and now you have a shortcut to my Premiere keys. If you alt-click drag a folder, then it'll make a shortcut. And look, there they are, right? So you can add more or delete them or whatever, right? So there they are. And now that that is in there, now you can go into Premiere and go to the keyboard shortcuts panel, which is here, but I have it Shift-K, whatever. And you can choose Terran keys. Oh, here they are. And boy, is this customized a lot. And I really like that they have the visual shortcuts now. It just is so much better. By the way, some of these don't make any sense. For example, I have Control F1 through Control F6 assigned to eject. Like, what the hell is eject? I'll tell you what it is. It's in the capture panel, and I literally never use the capture panel. So why did I assign those shortcuts to that? Well, because this is a visual thing, and I wanted to visually see that those shortcuts are being used by something. In this case, it's AutoHotKey. And Control F1 through F6 are my shortcuts to change the application. So I just wanted to make sure that I would immediately be able to see that those ones are being used, and I shouldn't assign anything in Premiere to those shortcuts because they just wouldn't work, because AutoHotKey does its thing before Premiere would notice that you've done anything. So again, like, you can remap Control-Shift-Escape, and you can make it just do whatever you want, which you should not do. And you can also remap any other keyboard combo before the application sees it. So I just make that stuff visually look like it's been used, so I don't do anything with it. Okay, so we're just going to go back to Bob's keys, because we're going to act like we haven't done that, because look, my keyboard shortcuts are going to be so confusing for you. You should not just load it up and just start using it, because you're not going to know where anything is. Either you're going to have to study this very carefully and look through very carefully, or more likely just go from what you have and what you already know. When I started editing in Premiere, I was using the Final Cut Pro shortcuts because I learned to edit on Final Cut Pro 7, right? So just use what you have and just start adding and changing shortcuts one by one, and slowly you'll get it. And I do recommend moving the shuttle keys over here. It is just, oh my god, it's so much nicer to have all this here. You've got the ripple trim where it is, and these, like, this cluster here, like, this is gold. I hardly have to move my hand at all. So we're back to Bob's keys v1. We're just gonna save. I don't know why. It's a habit. And let's see what else we can do. Let's grab just one more script from my GitHub before we get to the big one, because it gets, like, the complexity increases a lot. Okay, let's just grab the next one. So this is the instant cut at cursor. Now, you don't need to use this. You can choose to delete this later or just skip this part, but we're just gonna copy and paste that into our little AutoHotKey script, and then save and then relaunch it. And this won't work because because you don't have the proper keyboard shortcut assignments. Probably you don't have B as the blade tool, but let's just find out what happens when I do this. F4. Oh my gosh, it works. I think that's just because I already have B as the blade tool. Let's find out. B is the razor. Oh, sorry, that's the razor tool, not the blade tool. That's cool. So shift down, L button, shift up, and then V for the selection tool. Okay, so you have to have the selection tool assigned and the blade tool. You know, I should probably have some kind of notation that says like assign this in Premiere, right? And just put that beside every single thing that's not going to work unless you assign it in Premiere. It's just, like, it's one of those things where it doesn't help me at all, so I haven't done it. But it would help you guys. But whatever, you've got this tutorial. So anyway, I use that all the time as well. It's just nice to be able to do that while you're playing. So, like, I'm playing a video and I just want to cut somewhere else. Like, this is, and it's a full cut. It cuts through all the layers. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's just so great. It's just so great. F4, and then whenever I release, there it goes. Isn't that awesome? But you know, maybe let's say you don't want that, right? It's not your style. You know, whatever, you don't want it. So what you can do is, well, it's a pain in the ass for you to like comment this out one thing at a time. If you have a better Notepad program, a better text editor, this becomes a lot easier to deal with. So instead, like let's just delete this. Like even the undo in here is miserable. Like it's undo, but it undoes the undo. Like what kind of undoing is that? It sucks. So I'll show you how to set up with a better text editor that'll have the text like colored in. That is so helpful, but not yet. Not yet. Let's do the next one. Let's do the next one. Let's say you want delete single clip at cursor. I'm going to show you this one because it's got some things that you have to know about, right? So let's just say that you want this macro as well. So like I'm assuming that you understand the notation here. Like if you do this macro here will no longer work. You cannot do it that way. If you have after the colons you have more stuff that's not just a comment, it will not work. Actually, let's just save and I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. Go into Premiere and then I'm going to hit F1, and guess what? It didn't do anything else because it's literally only running this single line, and everything after that is totally ignored. It doesn't even look at this, right? Because you have to do it like this. That screwed me up for a little while. It also doesn't matter how far away the return is, but it has to be there, or it will begin to run the next the next macro that you have. It will just keep going until it hits a return, and then it will stop. And it's actually useful to be able to say, okay, I want, let's say F2 and F3 and F4 to all do the exact same thing. Why would you? But you can do it. Message box, hello, and then do a return. And let's say Control S to save. Check this out. Go here, go back into Premiere, and hello. This is F3, hello, F1, hello. But it also, it did the ripple delete clip at playhead, and it did the hello. Because guess what? You messed it up, and you forgot to put a return here. See? So it did all of this, and then it kept going because there was no return, and then it also did that, right? So you got to be careful about that. And even the syntax highlighting will not save you here. You just have to know that that's how that works. Let me undo that. All right. So anyway, back to stealing some more code from Terran. I say stealing, but I've made it all available. So we're doing this one. All right, we're doing this one, and I'm just I messed with it a little bit. So let's just put it back in again. We're doing that one. Let's paste it in. Okay. What happens if I try to run this? Let's find out. Double click on it. Guess what? It's telling you call to non-existent function, which is at line 30, Premiere Focus Timeline specifically. It does not know what that is because you never defined this function. Now, what is a function? Oh boy. I don't know how to explain it. Just the first time it was explained to me, it was just so poorly explained. A function has parameters. What's a parameter? A parameter is used for a function. That's not an explanation. Basically what it is it allows you to run another piece of code within this main piece of code. And you can actually nest functions inside of each other. But basically what this is asking for is for somewhere else in the script, you need to define what this will do. Okay? So in order to define it, we do the following. We just say Premiere Focus, oops, wrong bracket, and then do that. And then I think you need to have a curly bracket and then another curly bracket that ends it. And you define the function in here. So let's say message box. Yay, you are in a function. Yeah, I spelled it wrong. Who cares? Save. And now this will actually do something. It's going to do it wrong because that's not what that function is supposed to be. But let's just see what happens. We're defining a function. We're going to run a function. Double click. And now, it's still complaining. Too many parameters passed a function. So what it's complaining about now is that there's not a parameter in here specifically. So what I need to do is I need to say like Terran, right? The parameter is Terran. It doesn't matter at all what you call the parameter. As long as there's something in there, And then what I can say is, yay, you are in a function. The parameter was, and in this case, I have to encircle it in the percentage sign. And that means that instead of just saying Terran, it will actually give you the value of Terran. What is the value of Terran? Well, it was the first parameter given to this function. And what was that? The word timeline, right? So let's actually run this. Okay, we have to double click on that to get it running. Go in here, press F9. Yay, you are in a function. The parameter was timeline. See that? It worked. And now it's going to do a whole bunch of crap that's not going to work because I didn't set up the rest of it. Say, okay. And then it clicked on that for me, whatever. Okay, so congratulations, you made a function work, even though it's kind of broken. But we'll fix it right now. We're going to fix it. This function is not what I just wrote out. This is wrong. So whenever AutoHotKey tells you it's a call to a non-existent function, what you need to do is go find that function in here. So we're actually going to try to find it. Just find it right here, Premiere Focus. But guess what? Every single instance in this particular script, and this is probably what's really confusing people, is only calling the function. It's not actually defining the function. And by the way, calling the function just means like running the function, like loading the code, like making it go. So what's going on? I thought you had to define your functions. It's not defined. Well, it's not defined in here. And I know it's confusing, but I defined all of my functions, not all of them, but most of them, in another script. So I'm sorry, but it's not there, it's over here. Almost all Premiere functions .AutoHotKey. It's in here. So now we search again, and this one's just calling it, this is calling it, this is calling it, and here's the function. This function allows you to have one place where you define your personal shortcuts for focus panels in Premiere. It also ensures that they actually get into focus and don't rotate the sequences or anything like that. I had to make this into a function because I was doing it so many times and it was a little complicated that I didn't want to have to write this every single time. So instead of that, I just say, okay, call the function, tell me which panel you want, and according to that, I will use certain shortcuts. All right? So functions are great because they're reusable code where you change one little thing and then you can get a different output. It's just great. It's great. It's great. I can't explain functions any better than that. I'm sorry. But let's just demonstrate by doing it. So what we're going to do is, now that we have the function definition, let me copy all of that just directly out of here, directly off of GitHub, and go into my little my personal AutoHotKey script right here and paste it and save. So is this going to work now? Well, we need to set up V, C, and Control-Alt-D. And we also need to set up Control-Alt-Shift-1, Control-Alt-Shift-2, Control-Alt-Shift-3, Control-Alt-Shift-4, Control-Alt-Shift-5, and Control-Alt-Shift-7. I guess Control-Alt-Shift-6 is not in here. As you can see right here, Control-Alt-Shift-1 is Project. Control-Shift-Alt-4 is Program Monitor. And then we got effects controls, effects, and so on. Now what these commands do is they bring focus to those specific panels, which means that all the shortcuts you send after that point will be sent to that specific panel. And you can tell that a panel is in focus when it has this blue, it's actually cyan, rectangle around it. You need to assign these in Premiere, or my function here will not work, right? That's very important. This is probably what screws people up. So let's just go through it. Let's just set these all up. And again, don't just load what I have. I want you to just add little pieces at a time, little bits at a time. So now we can see both of them. We're going to load up the keyboard shortcuts panel, and let's see here. So application window. I'm just going to type in window right here to try to find it, and then this is always too small. You always got to make it bigger. So check it out. By default, you have all of these assignments, shift and then a number. And like I told you before, shift and then a number or a letter is a terrible shortcut if you're running it in a macro. Okay, so I'm just going to show you what this does normally. So shift 1 loads a bin. That's also called the project panel. It's a bin or a folder. project, bin, folder. It means the same thing in Premiere. You just have to know it. Shift 2 is the source. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, and there's, you know, these panels have shortcuts, and this is great. If you wanna highlight panels this way, that's fine, right? If I want to get to effects or projects really quickly, right, I can do that with those shortcuts. But again, terrible if you're wanting to do this in a macro. So let's go back in there and let's just type in window just to get all of them visible at the same time, because it's under the window subcategory, right? And I have chosen to just straight up delete these shortcuts as they are, and just replace them with my new one. So I made it easy for you. Just do Control-Shift-Alt-2, right? And then do this for all of them. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. Actually, I don't think I ever use the... No, screw the media browser. I don't like it at all. I don't want any shortcuts for it. But I made this easy by just using the numbers that they use by default, but I've added extra stuff on top. Now, Brandon really likes to use the shift numbers, whatever, to change panels, but I don't do it. I don't need it at all because I have all of my panels visible pretty much all the time because I just have a lot of screen space. So not everyone is able to do that, but I can. And then, I don't know, you know, why not? You don't actually need to define all of these, but I have, right? So you've got to set these up, and then I just delete the old ones because I don't need them, right? So there you go. Say save as Bob's keys. Yes, overwrite it. All right, saving your keys. And you might want to do Bob's keys v2 or whatever. If you want to like save your keys before you changed everything to the macros. Now, if I want to do that, I can still do it, but I have to do Control-Alt-Shift-7 to get to the effects panel, for example, or Control-Shift-1. Now, one of the annoying things about the timeline shortcut, which is now Control-Shift-3, is that if you press it again, it will go to another sequence. I find that's incredibly annoying because I want that to be a separate shortcut. I don't just want that to happen by itself, but let me show you. I just got to prove it to you here. If I right-click here, I can say New Sequence. Let's call this Oh No Hello. If I do Control-Alt-Shift-1, I'll go over here, and I keep pressing it, nothing happens. If I do Control-Alt-Shift-3, 3, 3, 3, it changes the sequence. And I always have more than one sequence open. So that's super annoying. And so I had to compensate for that with the macro. And fortunately, I was able to compensate. So let me show you how this particular macro works. Okay, we have now set up all of these shortcuts. We've got that one. We've got that one, that one, that one. Okay, good, 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 good. We've got all these, okay. And what about delete, select, and deselect? Okay, Control-Alt-D. I don't think we have that one yet. Control-Alt-D, we need deselect. Okay, deselect all, Control-D. And you can, it's beautiful. You can assign more than one shortcut to a command. That's the most valuable feature that Premiere has. So you don't need this. I kill it. It doesn't matter though. Deselect, Control-Alt-D. It's a great thing for a macro to press, not so great for a human, but you know, deselecting, not really that important in Premiere. If you want to deselect, you can just click somewhere. It's not like Photoshop where you've got like very complicated selections. And checking again, sorry, I need to make sure that I have C as delete and V as selection tool. Let's make sure we've got those. Select, and C is delete. Correction, it's called clear in Premiere. I really need to be able to see both of these at the same time. Yes, okay, I've assigned C and V to those things. Okay, record video from the capture panel. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to get rid of that. Selection tool, and selection tool in the legacy titler. That's fine. That's what I do anyway. All right, so I think we have all the shortcuts set up. And let me show you, like this will work, but you need to know why and how it works. And I've fully commented on this to explain it. So you press F9 and it will immediately run this function, which means that it goes down here. And it does this, it does everything in here, it gets to the end, this little curly bracket here, and then it will go back up here and it will continue on and do all this stuff. Once it gets to the return, it will stop. So what this is doing, and I'm just going to delete. This is annoying me. I'm going to delete this part. Actually, you know what? We can look at this with the nice colorful code. Aha! See, this has syntax highlighting. This is nicer to look at, right? So everything that's commented out, you can see is grayed out because it doesn't do anything. It's just there for you to read. Okay, so first thing, bring focus to the effects panel. And look, check this out. Like, you can step through this by yourself. You don't need the code to do it, just so you can see in slow motion what it's doing. So let's try that. I'm going to click on some other panel over here, and now we can just run through it by ourselves. Okay, first F9, yes, and then first is this function, okay? So first thing that happens is send Control-Shift-Alt-7. And this is how you should be figuring out new macros. Just go through one thing at a time, do it manually the first time to see if it actually works. Okay, so Control-Shift-Alt-7. And then it does Control-Shift-Alt-7 again. And the reason I did that is because if you had this one full screened, and then you hit Control-Alt-Shift-7, guess what? Oh, look! The effects panel's not selected. So that's why I have the script do it again. And I only found that out much later when I was in a situation where I had like this thing full screened, and I ran the script and it didn't work. Because guess what? You're not out of full screen yet. So Control-Shift-Alt-7. And the thing is, if you're already here, it's fine to just do that twice because nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens. Okay, so now we're in the effects panel. And now what happens? It sends an unassigned key scan code. Okay, I know this is confusing, but you can completely ignore this. I should even just get rid of this. There is no key on your keyboard that correlates with scan code OEA. All right, that key does not exist on any keyboard anywhere, which is why I used it here. Just ignore this line. Trust me, just ignore it. Okay, if panel effects, then do nothing. Was our panel the effects panel that we wanted? Let's find out. No, it's the timeline. Okay, so that's not what's going to happen. Instead, it's going to, because panel, and check it out, panel is the name of the parameter. If panel equals timeline, then it will send Control-Shift-Alt-3. Okay, and so we're already here. So let's see what happens. Control-Alt-Shift-3. Now you're on the timeline. And then, if panel program, no, we're not that. Source, no, no. The end, and then send another blind scan code. Totally just ignore that. Trust me, it's not relevant here. And then it will go, this curly bracket means that we're done with this function. Okay, great. Now it will send deselect, which only works if the timeline's in focus. So Control-Shift-Alt-D, deselect. Now nothing's selected. It wasn't selected before, but that's necessary. And then it will send V for selection tool, which was already selected, but whatever. Alt down, left click, Alt up, and then C for delete. Now that we have this working, save, and make sure that I run this, and check it out. If I want to delete a single clip at cursor, I press F9. Haha. Guess what? It just works. It just works beautifully. You don't necessarily need this thing right here to bring focus to the timeline, but if I'm here and I press it, guess what? Oh, did that work? Oh my goodness. Because I had the selection tool to click down. You know, maybe I don't actually need that in that function. Why is that there? I don't know. I don't know if this is such a good one to explain to people. There must have been a reason why I put that there. But Premiere Focus, like to focus a panel, is extremely useful and actually totally necessary for other macros. I'm going to undo all my damage that I've done here. And I'm going to... I don't know if that's a good one to explain. Okay, you know what? I'm going to keep this tutorial exactly how it is, because ideally, like, let me give you a little behind the scenes of how these tutorials work. If I end up going into a sort of a dead end, I will redo that part of the tutorial. In this case, I don't know why this function is here. I do not know. And that's my dead end of like, well, why did I bother explaining what a function does when it turns out that this is totally useless for this macro? However, a lot of things are kind of intertwined when you're explaining stuff. So what I have to do then is go back and listen to that whole section and see what things I explained, and then like write them down so that I know what I still need to explain when I redo that part, right? So ideally, I would redo this using a macro that's not the one on F9. However, I'm not going to do that because it's just going to take up far too much of my time, and then this project won't get done. And I've shot this before. I've shot this whole tutorial before, and because too many things went wrong, I had to scrap the whole thing. But if I had just been satisfied with like, okay, this is kind of not the quickest, simplest explanation, but I do get there, then that tutorial would have been out like a year ago, right? And all of you guys struggling at home to try to figure this stuff out on your own for hours and hours and hours would at least have something that you could watch that would explain everything, even if it's not optimal. Well, you know what? We're just going to stick with it. And now that I've realized that I don't remember why this function is in this particular macro here, I'm going to comment it out on the official one. And I'm going to then just edit normally, and I'm going to see what's different. And this is how my functions evolve. I will add or change one line, and I'll just edit normally, and I'll see if anything's different. And you'll run up against the edge cases by doing that. Probably in this case, I realize that in some specific situation, if I don't bring focus to the timeline, that this macro doesn't work. I don't remember what it was, and maybe it was actually for a previous iteration of how I programmed this macro. I don't remember, but I'm going to find out, right? So anyway, even though this function might not be important for this particular macro, you did learn about the panel-specific shortcuts, and that is very important, and you do need to know it, and you do need to set those up for most of my functions to work, because the thing about Premiere keyboard shortcuts is that many of them are panel-specific, and that's what this coloring means. Right down here it tells you, application shortcuts, purple, are active regardless of panel focus. The panel shortcuts in green always override application shortcuts when the panel has focus, right? And that's good, that's how it should be, but that does mean that certain shortcuts, such as the please change the playback resolution of the program monitor, will not work if you have the timeline selected. It just doesn't work, even though it really should. They should make that a global shortcut, but they don't. So when I do it in my macros, I will have the macro send the shortcut to select the program monitor, and then send the shortcut to do whatever it is. And that's the only way that some of these will work, is by selecting the panel first. So anyway, we've now done this one other macro, and I have decided that now is the time to upgrade you to Notepad++, because this is just a nightmare for me to look at. It's just, oh my gosh, so much easier on my eyes to just be able to see like the difference between like a comment and the code and all this other stuff. Like it's just, it's so much better. So look, we're just gonna do it. Well, I'm upgrading you right now to Notepad++. And you know what? People make fun of me for using Notepad++ because it's not a proper, like, a proper text editor, but I don't care. It's what I'm familiar with. Stand with Hong Kong. Why is it they're going to get kicked out by Blizzard? Okay, which one is the actual download link? Is this really the download link? Rule of thumb, the correct download button is always the smallest one. Let's just do the installer. Do we want 32 or 64-bit? I don't know. I'm going to go 64-bit. Let's grab that. Show in folder. Okay, Notepad++. Let's install it. By the way, I will censor keyboard sounds when somebody's putting their password in, because I think it was Wendell from Level 1 Techs said that you can actually reverse engineer a password just from hearing the keyboard typing it in. You got to work really hard. It doesn't always work or whatever, but it's possible. It's possible. Blah, blah, blah. Auto update. I can't unselect it. No. Yeah, sure. Let's install all that stuff. And why not create a shortcut? Run Notepad++. Okay, here we are. And we don't care about the changelog. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is get your beautiful first AutoHotKey script, yay, save it, and close it. All right? And just open it in Notepad++. You can do it from here. I guess it doesn't really matter, but I just prefer to do it from right-clicking on it and say open with, oh, it's actually right here, edit with Notepad++. There we go. Ta-da! Now, you might notice that this does not have the syntax highlighting. That's what it's called when all the code becomes colored. Okay? Colored code. And GitHub is nice. They know that this is an AutoHotKey script, and therefore they know the correct syntax highlighting to use. So anyway, we have to get the syntax highlighter, and I have a link for that right here. Paste. These will all be in the description below the video. Syntax highlighting. Download user-defined language as raw. Right-click and save as target. Okay, so click here. Download. Yes, I'm trying to. Where is it? Is this it? Yes. Right-click. Save link as? Yes. Future Terran here. Wrong. This won't work. Don't do it this way. I realize my mistake soon. You'll see. Open. Failed to import. Ugh. Let's download it a bit of a different way. Download raw. Save in documents. Okay. Notepad++. Go to language. User-defined language. Define your language. And then imports from documents. That one. Import successful. Okay. Yes, I didn't follow the instructions exactly. You have to click raw and then save it from here, I guess. Jeez. Alright, well, lesson learned. And now language. Then you click user defined, and it doesn't work. So you close and reopen Notepad++, and then you do it again. AutoHotKey. There we go! Now we have AutoHotKey. And look at this beautiful, beautiful syntax highlighting. Oh my god, this is just so much better. It's just so much better. And I think in mine I have some setting that says, like, I think it's under style configurator. I think I have a global bold font. Global bold. Bold. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of prefer the look. And, oh, another thing about, look, now you have to learn all this other crap, but I really, really, really hate the MRU behavior. It's awful. Turn that off. Close. The control tab if you have more than one thing. I just want it to work a normal way. Anyway, there's all sorts of extra settings and crap that you can set in here, and I use Notepad++ because I'm used to it and I don't want to learn a new thing, and I don't need to. This does everything that I need, and I know where everything is. And I don't like change. Alright, now that you've got that all set up, I'm going to teach you how to get the preset function working for you in Premiere. By the way, if you don't know what the preset macro is, here it is. I'm showing you on screen right now. This is what it does. You press a key, and it will apply a preset for you from your list of presets. It does it instantly. It's great. This feature should exist in Premiere, but it doesn't. They will maybe one day get it. You know, sign the petition. But in the meantime, we have AutoHotKey to help us with this. So AutoHotKey is just doing all the same things that a human would do to apply presets, just way, way faster. Now, if Adobe does put this feature into Premiere for real, you might think that that makes this entire tutorial obsolete and you shouldn't watch it, but that's not true. You should watch it if you are a beginner with trying to learn how to apply AutoHotKey scripts in Premiere, because I'm not going to make this tutorial again. I'm not going to remake the tutorial every time that Adobe finally adds one of the features I've been asking for. All of the skills that you're going to learn by figuring out how to make the preset function work on your computer are the exact same skills that you're going to need to figure out how to make any of my other AutoHotKey scripts work for you in Premiere, and in figuring out how to make your own scripts. So just follow this tutorial, because this is where I'm going to send you if you ask me how do I get AutoHotKey to work in Premiere. And if you're not willing to watch this tutorial and follow it, I'm not going to give you any extra help beyond that. I have to know that you're willing to help yourself first before I put in the effort to help you. And yes, you can message me asking for help. Twitter is the best way, and I will help you if I can see that you've put in the work. So, we're going to do it, and we'll do it together. We're going to do it. Almost all Premiere functions. Type in Control F, preset, And you might be wondering, well, how do I know what to search for? Well, because in my tutorial, I tell you the name of the function. And that is explicitly so that you can go into GitHub and search for that name and find it, right? Okie dokie, my most useful AutoHotKey function. There's no good reason my Premiere blah, 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 blah. Look, just take all this and don't even look at it yet. Not yet. Oh my gosh, how long is this? End of preset. Copy. You don't need save preset. This is a totally different function. End of preset. And guess what? You're just going to go into your script and you're going to paste it. And you're going to save. And we're going to see what happens. Actually, nothing will happen because we have to call the function. Let's just close that. And now we have this beautiful, beautiful syntax highlighting. We can actually look through this and figure out what the heck is going on. Because everything in the comment is green. This is, okay, first of all, look, we need to fix this, which is that I don't have wrapping. So, view, word wrap. Ta-da! Oh, it's just so much better. Now we can actually read without having to scroll left and right. Okay. So, key weight, prior hotkey. What this does, very, very basically, is, like, let's say that we assign this script to F3. No, let's do F4. It will wait for F4 to be released before the code beyond this point will execute. This is a global variable in AutoHotKey that's already defined. That's why it's here in orange. And you can look it up, but this means whatever key was just pressed. Like, that's what that is. And again, if you see something that you don't recognize, this is what I do all the time. I just type in AHK, paste the name of the thing, and frickin' Bing, man. The very first thing that should come up is the documentation. Prior hotkey. This explains what all of these things are. Like, there's tons of them. And don't worry about all these. You'll learn them as you go. So for this to make sense, we actually first need to have something that's going to call the preset function. So instead of this nonsense right here, let's just say ooh, it's got autocomplete on right now. I hate that. F4, : preset. Oh, this is awful. I hate this. I'm sorry. Like, this is the disadvantage of using a more complicated system, is that it tries to help you so much. I don't want you to help me. Just leave me alone. Autocomplete. No. Go away. Close. Jeez. Let's try this again. Preset. Oh, it's leaving me alone. Imagine that. And then a open parenthesis. And then, oh, look at that. See how the syntax highlighting is now thinking everything past here is a string? That's what the red means. If I close it, it'll stop, see? Preset, let's just call this blur 30, which is the name of one of my presets that I have in here. And put a close parenthesis and save. All right? And that's all you need to call this function. Just one line. Now we know that this particular function is being called using the key F4, which, as we go down here, boop, 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 we know that it is now going to wait for the key F4 to be released before anything below here actually occurs. All right? So the next line that happens is send input blind scan code OEC, and that's something that you don't need at all, and you don't need to worry about it at all. And the same applies for the key shower function right here as well. Look, there's a lot of remainders of past functions and methods that I comment out rather than deleting. And that's because I might need them again someday when I have to change or alter a script, especially if Premiere updates itself. And I know it's kind of sloppy, but I do it that way because this is my code for myself. These are working scripts that I use every single day, and I cannot compromise them for anybody. I can add comments to explain stuff, but I won't alter the code itself just to make it simpler for people who are new to AutoHotKey. I just will not do that. So just keep in mind that you are very lucky that I made any of my scripts public at all. Because when I started trying to figure all this stuff out, there was almost nothing available, and it took me years. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. And I'm making this tutorial just for you, so you can navigate this stuff. Okay, so you don't need this, and you don't need this either. We're just going to delete them. The scan codes, it's been very useful for me for debugging, and just like really super quick how that works is if you right click on a thing, you say open, it will give you a readout of like every single key that's been pressed. Actually, you have to go to key history and script info. If I say FFFG and then I say F5, it'll show me that that happened. And if I run the preset macro, it will have the scan code OEC in here so that I know that it actually hit that point. It's just a debugging thing that I do, and I don't know the real way to debug in AutoHotKey. If somebody knows, please tell me. Anyway, you don't need that. Okay, if not when active, Premiere Pro, then go to the end. What this means is if you call this function and you're not inside of Premiere somehow, then it won't do anything. It'll just go to the end. And by the way, this being here, I think doesn't do anything at all. I don't think that functions are affected by the if when active thingy that appears directly in front of them, but I don't know for sure. So I'm just going to leave that there for now, and I will probably try to delete that and see if anything changes. But anyway, that should actually be in front of F4. And it is because it's up here, right? So this doesn't actually need to be there. You can do it, it doesn't hurt anything. But just for my own sanity, like if there's like a lot of lines, I will put this back in even though I've already done it, just so that I know for sure that I'm still inside of the keys for Premiere. And if you want to, like again, if you want to do like all programs again, like you would just go a if when active and then leave it blank. And now I can define F4 as it exists for all other programs. Let's say message box, you are in not Premiere, right? And then save that. I actually like to have some separation between my functions and my key assignments. So I don't know. I just put some kind of stupid ASCII art. That's Control D, by the way, to duplicate a line. Anyway, let's go back. Okay, so go to the ending. So where's the ending? Well, you can double click on this, and because we're in Notepad++, it will highlight all the other instances of that exact thing. Aha, here's another one. Go to the ending. Keep going down. Keep going down. Go to, there it is, the ending. And then we're at the end of the preset, and it will finish. So go to is considered harmful. It's a thing, right? This is a famous paper on computer science about how using goto results in like horrible, awful spaghetti, awful to maintain code. But if you use it sparingly, it's fine. It does what you think it does. It will skip everything between the goto and the thing that it's going to. Anyway, this is just here for insurance in case somehow this was triggered outside of Premiere. But because your key here already has the if when active for Premiere, then that shouldn't happen anyway. By the way, if you're wondering, where do I get this information? I will tell you right now. Hit the Windows key, type in window spy, press enter, and then click on the window, and it will tell you right here, there's the exe, right? And that works for every single window. Notepad++.exe. This right here is iq.exe, right? And you actually need to include the AutoHotKey _exe because there's also the PID and there's also the class, so you got to tell it what it is. So I find the information using Windows Spy, right? And then every program is unique. It has unique information, except for a lot of Chromium apps, which is really annoying, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, back to the preset function. You get Windows Spy once you install AutoHotKey, by the way. Okay, next thing, we're setting the coord mode, the coordinate mode. In case you want to know what this does, you can read up on the documentation, right? But basically, it just makes sure that it is relative to the window. So if this window is not full screen and you move it like down here, or down here, or down here, actually not that far, but you can move it anywhere, and this script will still work, because it's relative to the window. See? See? Clever. So this doesn't really matter for me because I pretty much always have Premiere at full screen, but if you don't, then this will take care of you. Okay, next thing, this temporarily blocks the mouse and keyboard from sending any information. So yeah, it would be really bad if during the middle of this macro that's sending the presets, if you move your mouse and that'll screw it up. Okay, Next line, set key delay to 0. What that does is it'll ensure that whatever is typed into this search box gets typed in instantly, rather than it being slow, like this, blur 30, right? You want it to just be instant, right? So that's what that does. Here I had this function to highlight the timeline. I was experimenting with using it in this function, apparently, and it turns out that it wasn't necessary. So if it's not necessary, I will remove it. So I just commented it out. In fact, let's just delete this line because it's not necessary for you. And you know, again, that's how you do these things. Is you just change one thing, you see if it works. If it doesn't, then you change it back, and if it does, then great, you keep it. So Control-Alt-Shift-K, shuttle stop. And we need to make sure that we have that. So Control-Alt-Shift. There's nothing there. All right, so shuttle stop. It's on K, but it's not on Control-Shift-Alt-K. Now it is. Okay, see? And then sleep for 10 seconds. What this means is it will wait for 10 milliseconds. Although, as I learned later, that's not actually strictly speaking true. Apparently, the actual smallest delay is approximately like 15 milliseconds at a minimum. So if you do like sleep 1, it's the same amount of delay as like sleep 15. But whatever, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I send it twice, simply because in my experience, it's necessary. Like, the only reason I do this is because sometimes I'm playing the video and I'm like, oh hey, I could use something over here. And normally with Premiere, you can do that. You can just grab that and just put it there, and Premiere will be totally fine with it. But with my code, the way that it works, I just need to stop playback before I go and grab something from over here. And again, you might be wondering, why am I not just using K for shuttle stop? Because that's what it is, K. Why not use it? And again, do not use single letters or numbers or symbols for macros to send a command. Like, it's just such a bad idea. You're going to end up with a K in some random location, okay? You know, it's going to be on the ceiling. Who knows? So again, complex combinations are good for macros, and single keys are good for manual input. Although this is not strictly speaking true, because sometimes there's crosstalk where modifier keys get stuck virtually, and then it screws up the next modifier keys and things. Blah, blah, blah. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. This is fine. It's been working for me this entire time. You'll also find that some of my macros do send single keys and numbers. That's because I really know what I'm doing, and I've thoroughly tested these things to make sure that they work in the circumstances that they are used. So I'm just trying to give you rules of thumb here. Okay, next thing, get mouse position and save it as this and that variables. And this will tell you what it does. Stores the cursor's current coordinates at... And then send input middle mouse button. This will middle click to bring focus to the panel underneath the cursor, which is going to be the timeline. I forget exactly why, but if you create a nest and immediately try to apply a preset to it, it doesn't work because the timeline wasn't in focus. Oh. Make a nest. Say OK. Oh, yeah, it does. It brings you to the effects panel. So if you middle click, you end up back on whatever panel is directly under the cursor. And when I discovered that, I was elated, because AutoHotKey has no real way of detecting which panel is in focus. It can only assign a panel by sending a shortcut for it. Anyway, so middle click, super useful. This will make sure that the timeline is selected. And by the way, when you use the preset function, you have to have your cursor hovering over the clip, which means that it's going to be over the timeline. Anyway, you might think like, oh, maybe it's already in focus. No, it just ensures that it is. Ensures that it is. Now, left click also does work to bring focus to a panel, but that can easily screw stuff up because your macro might click on a button or a menu, or it might select or deselect something. Left click does a lot of different things, but middle click only ever does one thing, which is bring focus to the underlying panel. And that's why it's very useful for certain macros. Unfortunately, it cannot be reassigned in the keyboard shortcuts panel, so I just have to hope that they never decide to change what middle click does in some Premiere update, because then I'll have to go and fix a bunch of macros. Okay, and then bring focus to the effects panel, right? So what I could have done, instead of that, what you could do is to just do that, right? This will work. It's just that using the function here means that you only have to define this one single time, right? Because what if you decide later to change the shortcut to something else? Well, then you have to go through all your code, do a Control F, and like find, like, this is, well, it's happened once. But this could be like 100 times. Anyway, it's up to you whether or not you want to use the PR focus function. If you did not already set it up, then just do send Control-Alt-Shift-7. And if you did set it up, then I think you should just use it. So, send input, this is for debugging. You don't need, actually, this might come in handy. But you can totally ignore this. You can totally ignore this line. All right, another sleep for 15 milliseconds, and then send Control-B. Set in Premiere to select find box. And then it looks like I did this twice. I was trying some stuff, and it's not actually all that useful, so just once is good enough. Okay, so by the way, right now we are, if you press this keyboard shortcut, Control-Shift-Alt-7, you're in the effects panel. And now let's press Control-B, and guess what? Nothing happens, because we have not yet defined it. So, Control-B, what is it on? New bin. And bold in the old titler panel, but we don't care about that because the titler panel is not active. All right, so select find box. Is it Shift F? No, I don't want that one. Control B. Okay, and guess what? Now let's try this ourselves. Control Shift 7 and Control B. Ta-da! Look, it highlights the thing for you. And literally just those two commands together is so useful. Like, I have that bound to G1, which is this one up here. Well, sort of. This is a global search key, so it does something different if I'm not in Premiere. But, you know, just those two things. It's just so great. Meh, meh, right? And you can just search for anything. You know, you can search for, like, the crop effect or whatever, right? So you might want that as a macro. Okie dokie. Okay, this is where it gets complicated, my pretties. If caret x equals nothing, then go through this weird-ass loop. So, why? Because Premiere is slow. Here's the thing. First of all, what is the caret? It is the blinking vertical line. You never knew what that was called, did you? Well, it's called the caret. So, here's the thing. All we've done so far is do this and that, and because Premiere is slow, sometimes this has not occurred fast enough. Sometimes Premiere's laggy, and I just have to wait. And unfortunately, it's like a black box. I don't know if Premiere, at this point in the script, has done what I wanted it to do. I've been waiting around for 40 milliseconds by this time. All of these little delays are here to allow for Premiere to catch up. And because this one is so variable in how quickly it will actually do this, I have this little bit of code here that will just sit and check for the caret continuously until it appears, and then once it sees it, then I can continue going. The alternative to doing all of this, like literally I could just delete this, but I would have to put in like a sleep 200, and that is too long, right? That's the only way to guarantee that the caret has appeared where it needs to be, right? Or have this complicated bit of code that will wait the minimum amount of time. Because in this one glorious case, I have something that allows me to see if Premiere's actually done what I asked it to do, which is the caret there or not, right? So as soon as it sees the caret, it will continue. That is all that this means, all right? Also, it is possible that Premiere tried to autosave at just the wrong moment. So literally, you press the macro button, and you've sent the command to do this, but Premiere is doing a save, then your thing won't work. Because again, AutoHotKey doesn't really know what's happening. It has very few ways of knowing what Premiere is up to. So if Premiere does an autosave, then it'll get stuck. And fortunately, this little loop here will actually go to the end, and it will put you back out the other side rather than getting stuck. So this is really good. Again, you don't need this. You can just replace this with like sleep 200 or sleep 300 or something, like until it always works. But you can pretty much just leave this exactly as it is, right? And you don't have to worry too much. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. So that's what this is. So seeing this go all the way up to 264 milliseconds. Okay, that's the delay you have to use if you don't want to use this code. So there you go. Okay, so then, now that we know that the caret is there, now we move the mouse to the caret. And then sleep for 5 milliseconds while, I don't know, the mouse moves. The mouse should be instant. This is waiting for Windows to do its thing. Right, so now we have the caret. And the thing is, the caret could actually be anywhere, because you could already have like crop written in there, and the caret could be here, or it could be like, it could be here, or it could be like, because there could already be something written in here. Does it keep going? Yeah. So the caret could be all the way over here, or it could be all the way over here. It could be somewhere in the middle. You don't know, right? Because all that's happened is this and this, right? And yes, the caret's at the very end right now. So fortunately, even though we don't know where the caret is relative to the box, because we have Windows Spy, this is Windows key, Window Spy, type that in, because we have Windows Spy, once we're in here, we know that we are in class NN edit 5. And look, you can even see the text that's in there. Ooh, that's interesting. Right, so it'll tell you all this information about the X and the Y, it'll tell you about the width and the height, and it'll tell you relative to the screen, the window of the client, and so on. It'll even tell you the color of exactly what is underneath your cursor. You see that? So this is what I used to write the script and figure out where everything is. Okay. It has not deleted what's already in there. No, I don't, because it's an unnecessary step. It's better to do as little as possible. So anyway, we've now moved the mouse onto the caret. And now we use this function, which again, if you want to know how it works, look at the documentation. So what this does is retrieves the position of the mouse cursor, and optionally, which window and which control it is hovering over. Okay? So we are now going to learn by using this. This is not a function, is it? What is this? Are these called? Oh, it's called a command. Okay, these are called commands. The ones that I write myself are functions, and the ones that they have written are commands. So this is a command, and it will get the class NN of, in this case, the find box, which, as you know, is called edit 5. Now, it is not always called edit 5. It could be called edit 3, or edit 4, or edit 6, or edit 2. Edit 2 is the most common one. And that depends upon how your Premiere interface is configured. Because, like, I think that if I get rid of this, it's edit 1 now. See? See? So you don't know what it's going to be called. So I could just hard code that in, and it would work unless you have some other panels open, and then it'll stop working, right? So I have to grab it every single time. See? Like, this is the stuff that you learn when you do this. Like, you could have hard coded it. It'll work, and then one day it'll stop working because you had like some other panel open, right? So that's you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to learn this. When get class, then you have to get the class as well. Again, you can look up the documentation. I'm not going to do it for you every single time here, but the class is Premiere Pro. That doesn't make sense. When get class, you need the ID of the window. What is the ID? I don't actually know which piece of information is the ID. These aren't, like, is it 2680? Is that what I wanted? Fortunately, because I don't remember, I can just do this. Tooltip. So, like I said before, tooltips and message boxes are your bread and butter for debugging your scripts. If you don't know what the heck is going on, just put up a tooltip. And then because tooltips are instantaneous, you might need to add a sleep 500. That's half a second, so you can actually read it. No, that's not long enough. Let's give ourselves 2 seconds here. And then I'm kind of terrified, but I'm just gonna run this script. Yes, terrified. You heard me. F4. Hello. Oh, that's not helpful. Oh, I still have the old one loaded. So save, double click on it, and we didn't get any messages, so there's no extra functions we don't already have. Okay. F4. Okay, interesting. AutoHotKey class NN edit 1, title, OX308C8. Class NN edit 1. I don't know why we needed to know that this is Premiere Pro, because we already knew that. But for whatever reason, I seem to need that information. Alright, so the tooltip is not going to go away, ever, until we refresh the script. Or until you do, if you want to get rid of it, you just do tooltip, comma, and then you don't do anything. That'll erase it. So I'll do that sometimes. But anyway, in this case, we really didn't need the sleep because the tooltip stays there. So for whatever reason, I needed to get that. Then I needed to get the control position, which is, again, all of this information here, like all this stuff. And then I put in the information that I got before. Oh, that's why I need it. I needed to tell control get pause what to be looking for. Right. So those are input variables, and what I really want are just these output variables. And now we have a bunch of garbage that you can totally ignore. We don't need most of it, we just need the X and Y of the upper left corner. Oh, maybe we don't need the width and height after all. Okay. And then it will move the cursor to those coordinates of the upper left corner, subtracting 15 from the X and adding 10 to the Y. And those two numbers are what you might need to change to get this working for you. And this is supposed to move the cursor onto the magnifying glass. Alright, so let's see if that happens. When we're going to press F4. That was too fast. Let me try that again. What we need to do is put, here we go. Put the message box in. Let's save this, double click on it, and let's try this. F4. Should be in the center of the magnifying glass now. It is. Okay, so that worked. I mean, it's not in the center, but it's good enough. We should probably change it, though. And I can't move my mouse. I'm completely stuck because I have to press Enter before I regain control. Because at the very end of the function, I regain control of the mouse. Block input, mouse move off. See? So that's important to know. So if I blocked the keyboard input, the only way out would have been Control Shift Escape or Control Delete or something. Or restarting your computer. You got to be careful. Okay, should be in the center of the magnifying glass. So it's not. Which means that whatever these coordinates are, oh, by the way, the coordinates are for right here. Right here. And you would know that if you don't deduct anything. So let's not deduct anything, right? So minus 15 or plus 10? Nope, let's not do it. Let's just do nothing. Oh, by the way, the 0 means move it there instantaneously. You always want that to be 0. So double click, go here, and try it again. F4. See? See where the cursor is? It's in the shape of a little eye thingy. It is at the top left corner, not including the magnifying glass. All right? Instead of plus 10, let's do plus, I don't know, 8. Go here. See, I'm double clicking it every time. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty centered. It was the Y. It was a little bit off. Let's just do plus 7. Like, look, at this at this point it really doesn't matter. Plus 6. All right. I'm done, I promise. Okay. Try it again. F4. Center of the magnifying glass. Excellent. Okay. And let's get rid of that tooltip because it's giving me information that I don't need anymore. So comment that out. Right? We don't delete it, we comment it out, because then if we need that diagnostic information later, we will have it again. Okay. Future Terran here, I just realized that I completely forgot to explain this line here, which is the most important line. Send input, you already know about. It'll just send whatever text is here. But looky, we have this percentage sign, and then item, and then another percentage sign. This does not mean that it's going to send literally the exact same thing. Percent sign, item, percent sign. No. What it means is that this, whatever's inside of those, is a variable. And what's the variable of item? Well, guess what? That is the parameter that you originally sent when you called this function. And let's remind ourselves, what is that parameter? F5, donkey. Well, this is a little different because I'm on a different system right now, but we have two different possible parameters in this case, Nemo reverb or 90 IRE. This is literally the exact thing that is going to be sent right here, which means that it'll search for that thing. And fortunately, the search is pretty fast. 90 IRE. It shows up like pretty much instantaneously, so check it out. Boink, 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 boink. I'll just show you what the Nemo reverb does. Pretty good, eh? These are the settings for that. Makes it sound like it's underwater. Ooh. So that's it. And by the way, item, you can have more than one parameter in a function. You can have as many as you want, really. You just have to define it that way, saying like, comma, param2, right? And now this will totally work, but it'll actually get confused if I try to run this now. It's going to be like, hey, wait, it's asking for two parameters, but when you were going to call it, you're only giving it one parameter, so that's not going to work. Anyway, that's more stuff to learn as you learn AutoHotKey and scripting overall. And now this right here is the key line for getting this to work. The cursor should be directly on top of the presets icon. If not, the script needs a modification. What I don't tell you here, and what I really should, is that I would like you to put your presets not in this root bin. Instead, I want you to create new bin, A, Bob's presets, enter. And I think if you restart Premiere, it'll go to the top. That should be at the top. And put all of your presets in there, because you might want more than one of these folders. And if you type in like blur 30, you'll only get that one. And then if you have another preset folder with other things, you'll only get that one. So if you type in the most specific possible name, it will always be here. Whereas if you have anything in a folder that's like in a nested folder inside of that, it'll be in a slightly different location. So you want to keep everything flat. You know, like this isn't mentioned anywhere, but you want to keep everything inside of a folder like one of these, right? So you can make another folder as well. You can say new custom bin. Oops, that's not what I wanted. New presets bin. Jeez, where are they? And say, call it a Bob color presets. This is what I have. And put that one in there. Oh, sure, you go into the proper location. Let's see if I can trick this. Come on, come on. There we go. Now they're in alphabetical order. Now, whatever I have, like let's just do like a Lumetri. Jeez, I gotta scroll all the way to the bottom. Lumetri color. Let's just make this a little bit brighter. Change the temperature. I don't know. Make it obvious that something's happened. I'm gonna call this Lumetri bright reddish. All right. So now it's there, but we don't want it there. We want this in Bob's color presets. All your presets go into folders. Trust me. Blur 20. Put it in a folder. And then look, I typed in blur, I get all these results. If I type in blur 30, I only get one result. Blur 20, I only get one result. It will always be exactly here, right? Predictably. And that's where you want for your cursor to go, is right there. Not on here, because if you click, you're going to try to rename the damn thing, which is really annoying. It's got to be on the icon. So that's your next goal. You got it onto onto here, and now you want to get it onto here. I don't remember exactly why I start here, but I do. So now you want it exactly here. So now let's figure that out. Okie dokie. For 100% 50 UI relative to the magnifying glass, it moves it directly onto the icon. I'll have another folder, which should be unique to the first and only item. Okay, yes, this is explained. That's what I just said. You should have a unique name, because if it's just like blur, there's two of them, and you're never going to get blur 30. You're always going to get that one, right? So you got to have a unique name, so it's always exclusively just that one item. Now, let's check. This is when it gets weird. We have to see what our UI scaling is. I think it's actually 100. So we might actually be fine. Windows. Scale. Come on. UI. What even is it? Screen? Monitor? Jeez, display. We're at 100%. Okay, we're at 100%. So actually, I think I didn't need to change those variables at all. I think we were fine, and I was being stupid. And again, this is a thing where like I would go back and change this in the tutorial, but I just don't have time, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So you can use this one. But what if you had a different UI scaling? Well, then it won't work. But let's just see if this works right here, right now. So save, load. This should work. And F4. Should be on the center of the magnifying glass. It is. Enter. Should be directly on the icon. And it is. Enter. Which means that it should be working. So let's see if this works. Let's try to add some blur. Enter. Enter. Hey! It worked! Gaussian blur. Okay, but I have to show you a result where it doesn't work. Right? Where if you're using the wrong UI scaling, nothing's going to happen. And by the way, the last step is that it'll click, it'll drag, it'll return to its prior coordinates, right? But let me show you. I'm going to have to change the UI scale. Okay, I don't know if I can do this with Shadowplay running, but we're going to find out. Ooh, whoa! Oh no, this is kind of blurry now. I hate Windows UI scaling. Actually, I think Premiere will fix itself. Let's reopen Premiere. The audio will improve momentarily. Just hold your horses, bub. Okay, everything looks a little different. Yep. The UI scaling has officially changed. So now that it's different, because like let's pretend you've got a 4K monitor, and you're using 125 or 150 UI scaling. Now let's run preset and see what happens. F4. Center magnifying glass. It is. Should be on the thing. It is. Huh, that actually worked. Why the hell did that work? Look, the pixel value should be different. Let's try 150. Okay, here we go. F4. Why is that working? Is Windows different now? All right, I'm going to restart and see if it works or not. All right, we're back. And I'm going to press F4, and guess what? Nothing's going to happen because my Premiere script is not loaded because you have to double click on it. I'll show you how to get that to auto start when you load your computer later. Okay, let's try this again. F4. Aha! Gotcha! Okay. When I restarted my computer, it doesn't work anymore. It's a mystery how the frickin' coordinate system works. That's the thing with scripting your own stuff. Like, it'll seem to work, and then you restart your computer, and it turns out all your coordinates are wrong. Right? Like... This is the stuff you just have to learn with experience, all right? It's just going to suck for a while, but at least you have the benefit of my experience. So now I can try to show you. What do you do when it does not match? Edit with Notepad++. Geez, everything is just so huge now. Let's go back to that section. Message box. Alrighty. It should be in the center of the magnifying glass now. So let's see exactly where it is. F4. It is on the too far on the right. So we're going to change that one before we even try to do anything else. Which means that X needs to be minus, I don't know, let's say 20, 22? 22? And Y should be a little more. Should be like 10. Save. Double click on it. Go in here. F4. Hey, I got it. First try. Okay, so that's good. And now it's not on the preset icon. Now again, like this would work if our preset was here in the root bin, right? But don't do that because then you're gonna have to put them all in the root bin, and it's just gonna be a big mess. You're just gonna be all spread out here. It's gonna be miserable. Trust me. Oh, I should have been paying attention. Okay, so we need to add, I don't know, another. I want to say 10 and 15. Let's just see what happens. Now that we've done the magnifying glass one, we can get rid of that one. We don't need to see that one anymore. And this one here. Hey, looky. Because I've already been here before, I already have numbers for you. Ta-da! And I also just realized that I also had the numbers for the 150 UI scaling, and I totally missed it. Whatever, I got pretty much the same numbers. So this is moving relative to your prior position. Right? Let's try this one. This might actually work. I've already done the math for you. Math. Hey, look at that. And it worked. Ha 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 ha. We've defeated it. Right? So if you have 125% UI, you're going to have to figure out your own numbers, right? And again, this is all relative to the magnifying glass, which is relative to this box right here, which was found by using the carrots, right? And that's what all this complicated stuff up here is about, is getting that information, because it needs to plug it in to find this, and then you go relative to that, right? That's it. That's it. You might think that we're done here, and that you can just, because now you're here, is you can just click and drag it on. However, that will only work 90% of the time. Because for some reason, at this point, I think like either this panel isn't really in focus properly sometimes, or something else will be selected in some weird way, like this will still be selected, or something will happen where you're not able to drag it from here. So what I need to do next is click in the middle of this panel, and then click back here, and then I can drag it in. Unfortunately, it's just necessary to do. So that's why I need to get all this information here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is still on bad audio. Hang on, let me add the good audio in. Let's just open up Audacity. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Shadowplay is so stupid. I can't improve the bitrate for the audio. So this is, again, like, you can look this up. You can look this up. You can look this up. But exactly what's happening here is that it needs to know, let's see, is this actually DroverLoad window class 14? It's probably not. Oh, it is! Jeez, what if I add some more stuff? Essential sound. Why does this happen to me? Why does this happen to... There we go. This is now window class 21. I'm getting a little loopy here because I've been recording for a couple hours. Right, and then over here we have edit 5. And then this is window class 19, even though we're still in the effects panel. See that? See? The point is you have to get the information anew. So, you go away now. So what's happening here is that it will get the information about this panel, right? This panel. And then it will move the cursor to roughly the center of the panel, right? Roughly the center. And then it'll click on the panel. It will sometimes select one of these folders here, but that actually turns out not to matter. But you just need to select it. Very important. Without this, the script fails 20% of the time. This is also where the script can go wrong, but by trying to do this on the timeline, I mean, it didn't get the effects. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, actually, that has not gone wrong. The script has been fine. This is very important. I really should explain why the script fails. I don't remember why, but it did. So, let's click left 1. I don't know why that's not a center click, because the center click is what focuses the panel, and I think that was the problem, but I don't know. It's just one of those things. You don't always know why, but you just know that you need to do it. So that's why that's in there. It's a more complex function than I wanted it to be, but here we are. Now, in a previous step, I already stored the coordinates of that preset icon where the cursor was, and this step just moves the cursor back to those coordinates. So click here, go back here, and then do the mouse click drag with the left mouse button to the original coordinates that you started at the very beginning when you launched the function in 0 milliseconds, right? And then wait just a little bit, and then I don't remember exactly why, but I think, oh yeah, it's nice to just be back on the timeline, because then you do stuff like you try to play, and if you're not refocused on the timeline, then you just can't play. Like imagine you apply a preset, but then look, I can't play. Oh, I just did. I guess that's a global shortcut. But JKL aren't doing anything. Those aren't doing anything. So you want to be back in here so that you can, you can actually do stuff. So that's why that does that. It's really nice that I can do that with mouse click middle rather than having to do like the stupid, do Alt Shift 7, whatever. And then, yeah, it's just middle click. It's just so much cleaner. So the simpler you can do it, the better. All right. So like this is when the effect gets applied, right? It drags it on and releases, and then it gives you back control of your mouse, and then you're done. And also, now that I have gotten that part working, you can get rid of those message boxes. That is the point. You do not keep the message boxes, guys. You do not keep them. That would be a huge pain in the ass. Comment them out, and save, and refresh, and now you're good. Okay, skipping over the cropclick paragraph for the moment, the last two lines of this function are the ending colon, which is basically just the thing that all the go-tos are going to, and then there's a close curly bracket which ends the function, and now you're done, and you can go and define another function. But that's the end of the function definition. And congratulations for getting it all set up. And again, if it's not working, just comment those message boxes in, maybe add some more of your own. Remember that you can have them tell you the values of any variable you want, which is extremely useful. And just keep doing that and changing things until it works. And then get rid of all the message boxes and tooltips, because you don't need them anymore and they just slow it down. And then see if it works, and if it works, great! It works. Ta-da! There might be a better way, but that is how I do it. Now there's one more thing in the preset function, right here at the end, that has to do with the cropclick function, which is an optional but very, very cool function that you can also get. Basically, in normal vanilla Premiere, if you apply a crop effect or preset, it will not select the handles for you on the program monitor, even though you're probably going to want to change the crop around. Which is why I programmed AutoHotKey to do that. Now you might wonder, how does it know if the effect is a crop effect or a preset? Well, it's very simple. It just looks in the string of what you searched for, of what you called your preset, and if it sees the word crop in there, then it will call this additional function. And the way that the cropclick function works is that it will search the screen for this little icon and then just click on it for you, which brings up the handles on the program monitor to move the crop around. Although, this is the 2019 version of Premiere. In the newer one, this icon does not exist. However, clicking here, or clicking on the crop thing, like that, it will still give you those handles, right? So, depending on what version of Premiere you have to take a screenshot of that exact part of the screen so that AutoHotKey knows what to look for. Anyway, once AutoHotKey finds it, it'll click on it for you. Haha! And then you can move it around. Ta-da! It's so great! So that is a whole other function where if you want it, you can go get it and make it work for you. So that's what that particular function will do. But the way that I called the function was a little bit different. I say, if the function cropclick exists, then call the function. And if not, just don't do anything. And then I guess I needed to sleep for a little while. And then, what the hell is this? Oh, okay, sorry. This does not call the function. I'm totally wrong. I'm defining the variable func as that, and then I'm saying call that. Yeah, it's called here. Anyway, and then you would have to go, then you have to go back to my Terran GitHub and find cropclick in Terran Premiere Functions, and then Control F, cropclick. That's not it. Here we go. Cropclick. And then you have a whole other, oh my god, just so much more stuff. End of cropclick. Look, I'm not going to explain this one to you because you are now on your own. I have explained enough. This is not for the faint of heart, but you have to take tiny screenshots, which I've made available to you, but they only work at 100% UI. If you're not at 100% UI, you have to take your own screenshots and then define the area to be searched. Actually, I think it gets defined for you. Okay. See, my effect controls are usually in the top left corner. If you have yours in a different spot, you will want to change those numbers, right? Anyway, it's a whole other function. Functions, they're great. They're great. So Control D will duplicate a line in Notepad++. Oh, it's so nice. And by the way, also Control K will do that, and you can keep going. And then Control Q, we'll go back. I'm always so afraid, because if you press Control W, it closes your thing. It's not a very good shortcut. Control. So that's just a really nice way to just instantly, ta-da, comment everything out. Oh, it's just, this is why you use Notepad++ or whatever. I don't care what you use. Just don't use normal Notepad. Anyway, this is bad. It will actually yell at me for having a duplicate hotkey. Check this out. Unless you put this under a different ifwinactive, then because these are both in Premiere, you can't have a duplicate. It will not be happy about that. So let's put this under F5, and we'll do preset crop left. Save that. Double click on it to get it running. Oh, you don't have tippy. Okay, so blah, blah, blah. Tippy is just a function that I wrote for the purposes of debugging, where it'll put a tooltip on screen and allow the function to continue running, and the tooltip will vanish after like 1/3 of a second or however long I specify. Just long enough for me to read it without interrupting the script. That's all it does. If you want tippy, you can go get it. You also have to get the no tip label, but it's going to be easier for you to just delete those lines that reference tippy. Just forget about it. Just don't even use it. It's kind of dumb. You don't need it. All right, now let's try it. It seems to have worked. The cursor should be, oh yeah. Oh, see, it's not, because I didn't put it in a folder. Like, I know it seems like a pain in the ass, but really it is just so much better to put it in a folder. There we go. All right, try it again, F5. Okay, so your script, it's living here on the desktop. This is a terrible place for it, right? This is very important, guys. This is very important. Close your script, just exit. Don't put it there. Put it in your C drive and make a new folder and call it, don't change the name, AHK for AutoHotKey in C drive. That's where you put your scripts, okay? It's just, oh my god, it's just so much easier to deal with if you just do it this way. And then, I guess because I have, like, you're going to have to add a second keyboard folder as well, just because that's what a lot of my scripts are just already set up for, so just do it. Just do it, and just be grateful that you're now not going to have to go through all these lines of code and remove the reference to the second keyboard, all right? Second dash keyboard. All right, and now you put in your, where did it go? Now you put that in there. Move to second keyboard. And if you want a less stupid name than my first AutoHotKey yay, now is the time to change the name of that script. And if we want a support files folder, that is where that goes, right? So new folder, support _ files. Alrighty, now that you have done that, you are allowed to grab this line, right? And you can assign these things, it's not saved. I'm just gonna say no, it'll be fine. It's now gone. I need to reload it. What was I just saying? You are now allowed to put this line at the top, right? And you can use whatever file path you want. But if you're going to want to continue grabbing code from my repository, it's better for you just to use the same layout that I did. Just use the same folders that I did. And it's just going to be so much easier, especially if you're trying to do a direct launch of scripts from a Stream Deck or something. Definitely use this exact folder structure. All right. By the way, like the preset like code, you're done. You're good. You can just keep adding more of these. You can add as many as you want. It's so glorious. You can do F6. You can do F7. You can do F8. Ta-da! You can do crop right. You know, you can do Lumetri, brightener. I don't remember if I actually have that one. Save. Look. And then double click on it to get it running. By the way, in my thing here, I have a thing where if I press Control R, it will refresh the script for me, and that's very useful. In here, Control R. Control R will reload the script. Honestly, this is like so great. I recommend that you add this as well. And what you got to do is make sure that you have the ifwinactive Notepad ++, and then that should not be there. Let's just kill it. So that it will do that when you're in Notepad++. And now, when you now that you have it loaded, now that it's loaded here, now when I'm in Notepad++ and I press Control R, you get a little beep, and now you know that it has been reloaded. It saves a lot of time having to double click on a stupid icon. All right, right, and we're almost done here. We're so close to being done. Blah, blah, blah. Just if you want the crop click to work properly, what you got to do is in the support files, you have to put little tiny screenshots. Second keyboard, support files, crop transform button. Oh, UI 100. So here it is. See? See, there it is. And you can actually just drag this in. Drag it in. Beep. There it is. Ta-da! You can also grab the other ones, because, you know, why not? Crop transform button. It'll search for all of them. But, like, these are super important. Crop. Right? And, yes, in 2020, there's no more little icon next to it, which is kind of a shame. I liked the icon. And then we have, look at all these other ones. What are these for? Oh my gosh, Wilhelm scream. Why the hell is that in there? 7 months ago. That's a complete accident. That is not supposed to be there. These are other searches for other things. So it'll search for like motion, and within there it'll search for scale, or it'll search for this, or rotation or something. And then it'll be able to do the VFX, the instant VFX thing. This is all just because these panels move around. Look, it's moving. Look, everything's in a different spot now. Oh my gosh. Oh no. Any of these could be anywhere, right? So I have to set it up so that it'll work no matter where your panels are. And then there's nothing else, and so you're done. You're done. So like, for example, if there had been more stuff here, and I need to return, you know, I could have a message box saying, you are done, meow. Meow. And Control R to refresh that instantly. But see, so then anything after will then be executed, right? And then if I do F5, that doesn't happen, right? Because that is not on the F5 one. See, so you can actually add more later if you want, but you don't need to at all. But I'm just saying that that's how it works, and really, it's just better to have that all on one line. Ta-da! Now you have my preset function. Wow, what a pain in the ass that was to set up, wasn't it? All because Adobe can't bother to give us this feature in vanilla Premiere. Now, if you don't want to deal with all this, there are two options for you. There's the Excalibur add-on for Premiere, and there is the palette gear. I think the palette gear might not actually support presets, though. I think it only supports effects. They put that in at my request. The Excalibur add-on uses the API to do it, and it's quite slow, especially if it's trying to do Lumetri. But it is something. Excalibur Premiere. Oh no! It's frickin' Bing, man. Premiere add-on. There's jeez. Knights of the editing table. Frickin' Bing, man. Excalibur. It's a thing. This is your alternative if you don't want to deal with AutoHotKey, and it's fine. It works fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not as good, but it's way less of a pain in the ass, and it's worth the $75. All right. Oh, last thing that I need to show you. Last thing. If you want for this script to run when you turn on your computer, so that you don't have to like go in here and find it and click on it, like double click on it every time, what you do is you go here to your startup folder. So yours is going to be different because it's based on your username, and there is actually a startup folder for all users, but I can't be bothered to find it right now. Just go here. Username goes here. All the rest stays the same. Okay, what you do, check this out, is here's your AutoHotKey script. My first AutoHotKey, yay, is you say Alt, click, drag over there, and now it will start up when you start your computer. And there it is, right? And I would name it something that's not stupid before you do that, by the way. And if you want the icon to be something different from just a little H, then that code also exists. All multiple keyboard. Right here. This changes it to a little keyboard or a piece of paper or something. Put that up in there. Boink. Save. Reload. And now look, it's a little keyboard. It's adorable. So that is how you do my scripts. That's how you deal with them. You just copy one function at a time. Okay, one function at a time. Don't grab the whole thing. No. Some scripts are turnkey. I will show you one right now that I think is just going to work. And this is so great. So great. Premiere Mod, right-click timeline to move playhead. I think this is turnkey. Once you assign backslash, this just works. Oh, and Control-Alt-T, we already did that. Just those two things. Just those two things, and then here's the explanation. So go to raw, click raw, Control-S to save. Let's go to local disk. This is just so easy. So easy now. You have everything else set up. And you can save it. Stupid. Don't want the TXT. Why does it do that? And now we double click on this to get it running, and it looks like that. And guess what? It's a disaster. I still need to set up the thing. Somebody messaged me on Twitter. They're like, why does this just jiggle the timeline? It's so weird. I'm like, dude, you gotta read what's in there. Backslash to move playhead to cursor. All right. Move playhead to cursor. Now remember what I said about how single key shortcuts are bad for use in macros because you want to reserve them for hitting it with your fingers? Well, that does not apply here because you cannot do this one with the Control, Shift, or Alt modifiers because it needs to be able to go like every few milliseconds, okay? Alrighty. Hey, it works! Oh my god, that is really fast. This is not as responsive as just doing it this way, in my experience. Although it seems to be almost better in this case. But now you can right-click anywhere on the timeline, and it'll move the playhead there. Wow, why is that so responsive? I don't know. It seems to be working better than on my main computer at work. Anyway, it doesn't work if you don't have tracks there. It won't work up here, because that is a slightly different color. And if I add that color to the script, then it would actually start working on these as well. But you want to have your right click working normally. You do. And watch, it still works here. See, isn't that great? It's just so great. I use this constantly. And you don't even really need to look much into here because it just works. This is turnkey because it's just based on the color. See? Ta-da! Any colors that this sees, instead of doing a right click, it'll just send that. And that's it. So simple. This is a turnkey solution. And there's a couple of those. There's a couple of them in here. Let's see if I can find any more. So like that's what these are here, Terran's Windows mods and Terran's Premiere mods. There's one more that I would really recommend. Yes, delete existing keyframes. It is so annoying that when you make... Why? Why, Adobe? Why do you do this? When I click this button, it's like, are you sure? Like, fuck you. Of course I'm sure. Why would I click that tiny-ass button if I wasn't sure? Ugh! The script will automatically dismiss that text box. It's been needing a never ask again button for so long on that text box. So you can just, like I showed you, you can just download that script, put it in your launch this program when Windows opens folder, and forget about it. Because it'll just, it's like it waits for the warning, and if it sees it, it hits enter. Lol. And it just does that all day. It works, and it has to be a separate script, because otherwise it'll screw up all your other scripts. Alright, that is enough AutoHotKey for today. Goodbye. Oh, just kidding. Hey, one more thing. Terran's Windows mods. Go get yourself the cursor click visualizer. Well, crap. That was the 100% UI one. Well, you're going to have to change the numbers on this one, too, if you're at a different UI. But, you know, just save this. It's a TXT. Dang it. Delete the .txt. So stupid. Save this, open that up on your desktop, double click on it, and now guess what? You have scroll wheel acceleration. This is so much better than the slow ass timeline scrolling that Premiere has by default. I swear to God. Oh, it's just so much better. Now it does have the cursor click visualizer on it, which you might not want. And hopefully with the tools that I've given you, you can figure out how to disable that if you just want the acceleration. Or, you know, you can move them where they need to be. But this is just so much better. Okay, that's all. Bye-bye.